Check 1 2, check 1 2. Hey everybody, this is Derrick Broze with Conscious Resistance Network, and today is Tuesday, June 16th, 2020. And as evidenced by the title of this video, we are going to be talking about Bill Gates. We're going to be talking about genetically engineered mosquitoes, and we're going to be talking about Houston, Harris County, and Florida. And this whole topic, I know some of you guys have seen recent reports about this in the last week or two. I know Spiro, for those of you who follow Spiro on YouTube, that he did a great report talking about this. So we're going to go ahead and dive into that. I'm going to show you guys that I've actually been reporting on this for at least 3 or 4 years now, because I'm from Houston. So when I first heard about this, I called the city of Houston and tried to get more information about it. So we're going to dive into that in just a moment. First, I want to remind you guys to bookmark theconsciousresistance.com. That's my website where you can find all of my content, including my documentaries. If you haven't seen my most recent documentary, The 5G Trojan Horse, you can find it right there. You can also find my documentary on the Finders Cult for those of you who want to go down the pedophilia rabbit hole. And you can find all my books, which are available to download for free. And by the way, I will have some new information very soon about my book's being translated. And I told some of you recently that I have a publishing deal now, so I'm excited to share more information about that. But go ahead and follow on Minds.com. If you've never checked out Minds and you're looking for an alternative to Facebook, check out Minds. If you're looking for an alternative to Facebook, check out Float.app. If you're looking for an alternative to YouTube, check out BitChute, check out Library. You can also check out Hive. It's a little harder to manage, but I'm sure you guys can figure it out. And finally, if you'd like to support me, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Derrick Broze or buying some Kratom or CBD from My Brave Botanicals. That helps us continue our operation and continue going. So just in the last month or so, the EPA has approved an experimental use permit for field testing of genetically modified mosquitoes, which are known as Aedes aegypti. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it correctly. On May 1st, 2020, the U.S. EPA granted an experimental use permit to Oxitec Limited to field test the use of genetically engineered mosquitoes as a way to reduce populations that serve as a vector for a variety of diseases, including the Zika virus. You guys remember that one? The experimental use permit is designed to test the effectiveness of genetically engineered mosquitoes as a way to reduce the mosquito populations in specific locations with monitoring and sampling of the resultant mosquito populations. These field tests will proceed only after state and local approval, and they're intended as a first step towards potential wider use of GM mosquitoes in the U.S. So again, just to get that clear, it's a test which will proceed after state and local approval. State would be Texas in this case, or Florida, and local approval would be Harris County, the county, which is where Houston's at. Oxitec's field tests will be conducted, if approved by state and local authorities, over a 2-year period in Monroe County and Florida, beginning summer 2020, which is now, and Harris County, Texas, beginning in 2021. During these field tests, Oxitec will release into the environment male mosquitoes that have been genetically engineered to carry a protein that will inhibit the survival of female offspring. And I found out this much just a couple of years ago. They said that these mosquitoes do not bite. So it's not like, this is what they're saying, at least, that we don't have to worry about getting bit by mosquitoes and somehow being affected by these GE mosquitoes because the males don't bite, which is true. And after the males carry this protein, they go mate with the female mosquitoes. And it is anticipated, although not known, that only the male offspring will survive to become functional adults, and that these male offspring will retain the same genetic modification. Now, they go on to describe again, female mosquitoes are the ones who bite humans and that serve as the vector for blood-borne illnesses. Since only male mosquitoes will be released into the environment and their female offspring are not expected to survive, the EPA does not believe they will pose a health risk to the human population. Does not believe. That doesn't mean they know. And remember, this is the same EPA that is currently fighting to keep fluoride in the water, just FYI. EPA anticipates that these modified mosquitoes could be an effective tool in combating the spread of certain diseases, like the Zika virus, in light of the growing resistance of mosquito populations to current insecticides. It is also anticipated, but again, unknown, that there will be no adverse effects to animals such as bats and fish who consume the genetically modified mosquitoes. That's another way. Because even I can just think of a couple things that could go wrong here right off the bat. Even if we're like, oh no, the GM mosquitoes are going to bite me. Well, they're like, okay, it's only the males. The males don't bite. Okay, maybe that takes care of that problem. But we don't know what it does to the bats. We don't know what it does to the fish, right? And if they're basically saying that the males will mate with the females, and after a while, the wild female mosquitoes will die off, and you'll only have male offspring, doesn't that mean eventually the females will all be dead and then there will just be a male population, which means eventually this mosquito population will die? And look, I hate mosquitoes, but I also know that despite the annoyance they bring, they do play a role in the larger ecosystem. And what other ways could the ecosystems be affected by the apparent disappearance of these mosquitoes? We don't know. Oxitec is required to monitor and sample the mosquito population weekly in the treatment areas to determine how well the product works for mosquito control and to confirm that modified genetic traits disappear from the male population over time. That's the other thing, is they're claiming that, well, we're genetically engineering them, but once they mate and after a couple of generations, they're basically normal again. We have no idea, though. EPA has also maintained the right to cancel the experimental use permit at any point during the 24-month period. And you can see the permit right there. I'll give you guys the link to this one. Now, let's go on and look a little further. This is from the Sierra Club. Just a couple weeks ago, the Houston chapter, genetically modified mosquitoes for Harris County. Excuse me. Harris County could see a potential release of genetically modified mosquitoes next year in 2021. And they basically go over what we just went, that the EPA has approved an experimental use permit for the British biotech company Oxitec, and beginning May 2021, that they will approve this. So below is some information from the Houston Coalition for Environment, Equity, and Resilience, where they discuss this. It says, quote, if this release gets all the approvals, the city of Houston, Harris County would be the first major metropolis in the U.S. to receive this mass release of genetically modified mosquitoes, yet many folks don't know much about it. Our Harris County Public Health Department said this: the Harris County Public Health Mosquito and Vector Control Division mission is to protect the residents of Harris County from mosquito-borne disease by controlling vector populations. We achieve this mission using an integrated approach combined with constant exploration of new innovative methods and evaluations of our current strategies. One of the methodologies we have explored was the use of Oxitec mosquitoes, and we engaged in discussions of what a potential project might look like, should we deem it appropriate. Oxitec applied for an experimental use permit with the EPA in the case that we would like to try the technique in Harris County. And according to this group, they say there are social and environmental justice concerns about the lack of transparency, the release site of the mosquitoes, the fact that Harris County residents cannot consent to essentially being human experiments, and the impacts this may have on our local environment. Harris County Public Health says, quote, since Oxitec's application for the permit, we have been actively responding to COVID-19 in our community, and therefore conversations have not resumed. Due to ongoing public health efforts related to the pandemic, we have no plans to move forward with this project at this time. This was back in May 20th, I think. Let's see. And then they had apparently there was a webinar to discuss this. I'll have to check that out later. But as I mentioned to you guys, I've actually been researching this for quite some time. This is an article I wrote back in November 2017, genetically engineered mosquitoes to be released in 20 states. This is when the EPA was first discussing this. The company, I believe, is the same company. Let me see. The EPA said they officially, no, this one was by Mosquito Mate, the company behind the GE mosquitoes. And I don't know what happened with them or if they're still out there doing it. I know that there was controversy for years. Same story, though. Now, then we get into this one right here, though. This is where we get into Oxitec. And this is where the story gets a little interesting, guys. And I haven't seen anybody else mention this. The EPA's decision came after the U.S. Food and Drug Administration approved the release of genetically engineered mosquitoes to stop the spread of Zika virus. The FDA's approval was in relation to a field test of genetically engineered mosquitoes engineered by the British company Oxitec. Oxitec is the same company involved in a controversial vote in the Florida Keys during the 2016 election. In that vote, residents of Key Haven voted against the release of the mosquitoes. However, shortly after the trials were approved for a different location in the Keys. So they basically denied it in the Florida Keys, and then they found a different neighborhood that there was no resistance and were able to push it through. And opposition did eventually come together. There was a coalition of groups, including the Center for Food Safety and the Florida Keys Environmental Coalition, filed a 60-day notice of intent to sue the FDA. And then in 2017, the Houston Chronicle reported that Oxitec was working on a deal with Harris County. This was way back then, and it's kind of the same thing. So they've been working on this for a couple of years. I know most people are just now starting to hear about this, but people have been working on this for years, and actually there was an activist who was fighting against it. You might not have seen this either. I wrote this 2 years ago, 2018. Florida activist who fought the release of genetically modified mosquitoes found dead in hotel pool. Did you guys hear about this one? I don't know if you did. So let me show you where we're at. This is an activist, Mila Demir. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. She's a 45-year-old activist found dead in 2018, April 2018. She was from Key West, which is, as I just mentioned, was where there was a lot of opposition to these genetically engineered mosquitoes. She had been driving to DC to confront the EPA, to confront the FDA. I mean, she was a powerhouse activist, according to people who knew her and understood that she was really trying to bring attention to this topic. And I will say this, guys. I called the city of Houston a couple of years ago when this was going on to ask them if they had any information, because what they claimed was they're going to release the mosquitoes in one neighborhood north of downtown, north of the Heights, for those who know Houston. And they're like, it's just going to be this one neighborhood. And when I asked them, is there any way that you can verify or prove that these mosquitoes are going to stay in one neighborhood? I mean, obviously they could easily spread throughout the city. And of course, we don't know the unintended consequences that are going to come with this. They had no answers. But Mila Demir was an activist who was fighting this. She was found dead in a swimming pool at a hotel in D.C. while she was visiting D.C. to deliver a petition to the Environmental Protection Agency. And her death is still pretty much unsolved. She was not known to be a weak swimmer, but at the time it was reported that the D.C. Fire Department says the report incident happened at the Cambria Hotel and Suites, Washington, D.C. Convention Center on 8990 O Street, Northwest D.C. They were called to the scene at around 9:35. Medical crews say they attempted to treat the victim, but later pronounced her dead. And the police report claims that a witness found her floating inside the rooftop pool and called 911. And in the days before her death, she posted on her Facebook page saying, "The time is now. Please sign and share. We are not guinea pigs. It is time to set the standards when it comes to people and biotechnology." I actually had a chance to talk to her friend, Barbara Napolis, who is a activist and longtime friend of her, who actually went with her to DC and was one of the last people to see her alive. And this is just kind of a side story, but I want you guys to understand that there's a history of this. Many of you I know just heard about it because there's a connection to Bill Gates we're about to go over, but this has been happening for years. This effort has been happening just like they're trying to genetically engineer trees, genetically engineer food, genetically engineer the animals. It's happening, guys. So I actually talked to Barbara, and she told me that she worked with the Mila Demir, the woman who died, as part of the Never Again Foundation, which focused on environmental issues. And she explained that she and Demir had worked on the genetically engineered mosquito issue for years and previously had made trips to the Food and Drug Administration in an attempt to express their concerns. It's sad, man. I can go over the story, but I'll just post these links in here for you guys. But I do want you to see this one thing. Her friend, Barbara, said, quote, she wanted the people of Houston to have time to comment on the release of the genetically engineered mosquitoes. She would want people to continue to fight. And she was, of course, referring to the apparent upcoming release of mosquitoes in Houston. And like I said, I wrote this in 2018. People have been reporting on this since 2017. But there is more to the story. And let me go ahead and get some of those links to you guys. And thanks again to everybody who's watching. This is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network. I'm going to go ahead and post this for you guys. Please like, follow, subscribe, share if you haven't. If you know, I know that people in Houston, you have friends and family who have probably heard this story recently and might be concerned about it. Please let them know what's really going on, because as usual, guys, there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of bad information, but it is 100% fact that Bill Gates is involved with Oxitec, the company, the British company that I just mentioned that is trying to fund all this stuff. Oxitec and Bill Gates. Here, let's just pull up a couple of links real quick. And of course, it's all framed like, well, of course, Bill Gates is trying to, save us from malaria and save all these different diseases, stop all these different diseases. And that's the purpose. That's the mainstream version of events that we often hear. But I think we should be skeptical of that. So let me just show you this real quick. And then we're going to actually call the city of Houston right now while we're live and ask them what is going to happen with these mosquitoes and see if we can get any more information. So let me show this to you guys real quick. Just for those who are unaware, Bill Gates is involved in this. Gates Foundation and Oxitec fight malaria with genetically modified mosquitoes. We just had a very successful Expose Bill Gates Day this weekend. Please continue to push that. I don't know if you guys saw it. It was trending on Twitter all weekend. And this is just another one of the projects that Bill Gates has popped up in. He's funding 5G, funding geoengineering, funding vaccines, funding Genetically engineered mosquitoes. I mean, funding the World Health Organization. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has partnered with Oxitec for the development of a new strain of genetically modified mosquitoes that can help reduce the spread of malaria. And that's, kind of the point there. I know some people have heard them say things like they want the mosquitoes to be vaccinators in some way. I don't think they literally meant they're going to put vaccines inside the mosquitoes, but it is a pretty scary thought to think that somebody like Bill Gates with all this crazy money, here's from their own website, gatesfoundation.org, June 2018, they gave a $5.8 million grant to Oxitec for their global health program. Here's another one. Gates Foundation awards $4.1 million. See, at that time it said 4.1, but their website says more. And they're claiming it's for malaria. So I don't know. I just want you guys to be fully aware of what's going on. And as I said, this is coming to Houston. This is the Harris County Public Health Mosquito and Vector Control. I'm going to go ahead and call them on my phone and just let you guys listen in. Hopefully my phone doesn't cause static. We're doing this live, guys. So we got the number 713-440-4800. Let's see what kind of information we can get. Hopefully you guys can hear this. You should be able to hear that.
Good afternoon, Harris County Mosquito and Vector Control. How can I help you?
Yeah, I'm calling to speak to somebody about the Oxitec program and see if there's any news on the progress of that. I'm a resident of Harris County, and I called maybe 2 years ago, honestly, and was asking some questions at that time, and I was told it was going to be down the road once the EPA approved, and I'm sure you guys are aware the EPA recently approved the permit for Oxitec and the mosquitoes, so I'm just trying to see what information we can get.
Hold on just a moment, please. And what was the name of the program again, please?
Well, the mosquito program, the genetically engineered mosquitoes from Oxitec.
Hold on just a moment.
Gotta love the hold music. Can you guys hear it okay?
Hold on just a moment, sir. I'm going to transfer you, okay?
Thank you.
Vigilant Max EHS is currently unavailable. Please leave a message after the tone. When you have finished, please hang up or press the pound key for more options.
Hello, my name is Derrick. I'm a resident of Harris County, and I was calling to get more information about the vector program, what Harris County plans to do with the Oxitec genetically engineered mosquitoes. I called a couple of years ago, and I was told that this would be put on hold until the EPA approved it. And I'm sure you're aware that last month the EPA did, in fact, approve this. So just trying to get some more information about this possible. If you can call me back, please do. My number is. Please call me back at your convenience, and I appreciate your time. Thank you. We're going to call back. That's not satisfactory. Don't worry. I know you guys are like, oh, of course they don't answer. Let's try one more time. I'm going to make sure and say, hey, I need to speak to somebody.
Harris County Mosquito and Vector Control. How can I help you?
Yes, I just called a moment ago, but I didn't get in touch with anybody. They sent me to a voicemail.
Did you leave a message?
I did, but I was trying to speak to a human being if possible.
Okay, that's the person that you you need to speak to is Mr. Vigilant. And he's probably at lunch at this time because I let the phone ring for a while before I transferred you.
Okay.
And for you to leave him a message.
Oh, I left him a
That's the only one, I
message.
think. Okay. All right. That's the one you'll need to speak with. All right?
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, sir.
Well, I guess I am calling at lunchtime, so I'll call back later today, guys. But it's just that easy. All we have to do is make an effort, try to actually communicate to these people. I know it's much more fun sometimes to sit on the internet and speculate and guess about what could be happening or theorize and, you know, just not actually do the research. But I think we should maybe put some time, energy, and effort into verifying the claims that we're out here promoting. So the facts that we know. The EPA has approved a license, experimental use permit for Oxitec, the British company, to start releasing genetically engineered mosquitoes, which have never been tested in the wild, in Florida and in Harris County. They say Harris County is going to start in 2021. That means if you're in Harris County and you give a shit about this, and anywhere, because I mean, even if you're not in Harris County, if they do it here and then they say, hey guys, it worked out great, whether it did or not, you better believe it's going to happen in your area. So if you care about this issue, feel like doing something about it. Maybe look into your local city government, see if they have a mosquito vector or whatever department. Just call around, make some calls and ask, and just, you know, start sending some phone calls or some emails and saying, hey, is there any plans to release these GE mosquitoes in our area? Because we're really concerned about it. You can kind of get ahead of the game before you hear that there's a press release announcing that your city's involved in this. That's just my suggestion. You guys do whatever the hell you want. I'm going to leave it there for now, guys. I have another video I'm going to do in about 5 minutes. Once we hang up this, I'm going to do finally my exploration of, is there a George Floyd and George Soros connection, which is going to take me a good half an hour or so. So I hope you guys go ahead and share the support. And those of you who got here late, please do go back and watch the whole report, because I already covered everything. I covered that the females don't bite. It's only the males that bite, but there's still problems. We don't know how the bats are going to respond. We don't know how the fish are going to respond. We don't know how the people are going to respond. And we also don't know what it's going to do if they slowly kill a mosquito population, as they claim is going to happen, and how that's going to affect the ecosystems around us. So until next time, guys, thank you for your support. Please like, follow, share, subscribe. And remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace.